Hello and welcome. My name's Leanne. I live in Australia and this is my crafty cupboard. Hi everyone. Today from the crafty cupboard I got out my little rummage box filled with different bits and bobs because I feel like doing another little hand-stitched piece, another little hexagons. In a previous episode I showed how I made the little hydrangea hexagon, and I just want to play about with a few more hexagons today. So I've actually drawn out the hexagon. This is the one that shows you how much embroidery space you have to play with, and I'd just like to do something with the buttons. I was sort of inspired by this little journaling piece that I did. I really quite like the look of the button on the octagons, but of course then all them there's not going to be enough white space around them if I did octagons this size. But I'm thinking of either an octagon or a hexagon with a little button in the center, so that's the flower. And I really like the look of these. I thought it'd be cute if I had some other little flower buttons on another piece. There's a little garden. And I'm liking the center of this felted and beaded piece that I did. This part. I thought that could look quite effective in the middle of one of the hexagons as well. So, and I also have these in my stash. These are something I've owned for a very, very long time. Never knew really what to do with them. And I'm wondering if I can do like a little wreath with, full of leaves and the occasional rose, or if they're too large, maybe just one, and some beads to add some pops of colour. Anyway, let's get started. These are my thoughts today. So I thought I could sort of draw it out. So I'm thinking these yellow ones would make the good centre for the octagon or hexagon. I wonder what would look better inside. Feeling like probably the hexagon, although that is quite cute, isn't it? A little octagon shape there. Guess I could always do one of each. That's the center of the flower. I wonder what I like better. Actually, I think I'm going to go with the octagon. And then for the little flower garden, I actually have a massive jar filled with buttons, and just anywhere I go, any op shops or whatever I see buttons, I buy them. They all go in the jar, and every now and again I just sort of sit down and play with them, curate them, get out ones that are sort of similar. So you can see these ones I sort of went for all the pastel shades, and these ones are all the sort of flower type shapes, a bit more solid colours. It's always my favourite thing to do as a little girl, sit and play with my mum's jar of buttons. Hours and hours of fun, sitting there sorting them out, looking at them all. These are a bit prettier than that. That's a bit of a muted colour. Oh. I love the shape that's in these blue ones. They're beautiful. Maybe one flower and a couple of round ones might look good. Sorry for all the rustling of the packets. unless you like that sound, then I hope you're enjoying it. I like the sound of it. What have we got going on there? No, I like the size of you. Oh, what about a purple one? That's quite sweet. Oh, I like that. I like that green combo with it. That's very pretty. I might go with those ones. Alright, so that's the plan for there. Alright, this one I need my circle templates, so I can put a little circle in. Honestly, don't even know how the wreath concept will work, or if I can pull it off, but that's what playing's all about, isn't it? That'd be right. The little ones stay in the packet always. There we go. Like that, or is that too big? Like that. That would be too small. I think it will need to be this one. So look about center. It's not even a real piece. Why am I getting carried away about if it's in center or no? Some sort of thinking is, you know, just sort of random leaves. Maybe the occasional little swirl. And then the little ribbon roses thrown in. Maybe. Could end up being too chunky. Anyway, we'll see. Alright, and then this circle, I think that was the small one. That was the 2 centimeter. So that's going to be that one. And all I did with that was alternating yellows rating out from the center, and I actually did these ones first, I think, and then these ones are, did I do pistol stitch or separate French knots? I just don't even remember. I think they're pistol stitch, and then yeah, these ones were just straight stitch, and I've put a little bead at the end and some beads in the center there. So I've got a lot of pink and blue, I mean pink and purple so far, so I might go with a bit of blue, do a bit of blue for that one. Alright, so let's get these pieces packed up so we don't lose them, that would be dreadful. And pop these little buttons that we're not going to use back in their baggie. Let's get into first one. What do I feel like first? I feel like I'm curious about this octagon one. I might get into that first. Alright, so this is my template for the outside. So it's it says it's 1 1/4 inch width. This is just one of those disappearing pens. Cut it out more accurately later. It is an absolutely glorious day today. Just warm sun, cool breeze. Couldn't ask for better. Birds are happy. Bees are happy with me for planting so many flowers. Okay, so let's see which one will be nice to be the I think this looks quite nice to be the flower. Oh, well, that's lovely. I quite like that. It's very vintagey, isn't it? Yeah, I think the button looks a bit pale against that. Well, that's a very nice way too. A little bit more colour. I think I'm going to go with a little piece of that. Are you a glue baster or a fabric baster? I mean a thread baster. I do a bit of both. Today, let's just go with the glue. These little octagons are pretty easy to do because they, yeah, look at that. One fold and it's down. Pretty easy. Pretty much there. So take it off. I had my iron on earlier. I'll see if there's enough heat just to give that a little press. Okay, give him a little press. Yeah, blue and white threads everywhere. I'm working on this patchwork piece at the moment. I haven't actually done much proper patchwork before. I have one lap quilt that I did when my son was first born. He's nearly 25, and anyway, so I've looked at this quilt for a long time. It comes from this book, Japanese Quilt Books by Susan Briscoe, and it's actually that block right there combined with another one. I just love it. And I have a lot of sort of, you know, the mid blue left over from when she body dyed my fabric, so I thought, yeah, let's do this. So I'm doing it in navy and white. This is sort of an off-white colour, and yeah, so that's one of the blocks so far. So these are my she body dyed fabrics. Absolutely love this book. It's got so many quilt blocks in there, so it's just a brilliant source. Really recommend it if you're into, particularly if you're into Japanese style things. But of course some of these are very, very tiny, and so my first one I sort of sat and meticulously cut out the tiny pieces and stitched them all together, and then I've since sat down and worked out, you know, of course not to cut them right up, but to do strips and then slice the strips down into the smaller pieces that are required. So I'm very much enjoying that process. And of course, in terms of precision, it's not perfect, that's okay. But any that are too skew-if, I simply unpick and do it again. It's easy. And let's take the template out of this guy. It's dark in here, isn't it? Let's have some more light. Don't know if that improved anything. And my crafty cupboard is a buffet and hutch in the formal dining room. I decided that it was always been my favourite place to sit, and we do not need a formal dining room, and so I turned the formal dining room into my crafting space, and now it gets used every single day. And it's my favourite place to sit because it's such a tiny little room, and it's got windows either side, so I can sit and hear the birds and see the trees and just be surrounded by green and flowers. It's beautiful. All right, let's get some sewing happening. So I'm going to stitch this down. All right, away we go. What are you working on at the moment? Do you have one big project on the go? What sort of a crafter are you? Are you a serial project starter, or do you just do one project from start to finish? I was a serial project starter and never finisher, and then for the longest time I stopped crafting and had nearly made the decision to get rid of my stash of things. And then lockdowns came upon us, and I was so grateful that I had things to keep me amused. And yep, just reconnected with how peaceful it feels to sit and create something with your own hands. Just enjoy that time, little meditation. Because as you're working away, your brain's just thinking about what it's doing. I wonder if I might do a few little, it could look nice with a little bit of stitching around it as well. How do you store your scraps? I keep the tiny scraps that I'm going to use for this project in a box, and it gets full to the brim sometimes. That's okay. I just curate it every now and again. If I haven't, gravitated towards something in it, I take it out. What about thread storage? I store my threads all sorts of ways. I have them cut from the skein and hanging over a coat hanger and hang that up. Little odds and ends I just keep in this bag and try and use them up. And if there's nothing in that little bag, then I'll go to new threads, which I just keep in a jar because it's beautiful to look at. It's like a big jar of lollies, a little rainbow. Where did I start? Yes, this is the last one. Gosh, that's a bit wonky. That should be tucked under, shouldn't it? Like that. Yep. It's going to need some muted colours, isn't it, if I go with this idea of stitching around there as well. Just tuck this down. I think I'm looking to go that way. I'll just tuck it down for now with the thread I have on my needle, but I will come back with an embroidery thread. What I'm thinking is, oh, that's the end, it doesn't work anymore. These little petals, split stitched, just chain stitch. I said chain stitch, didn't I? But no, I think I'll just do back stitch. Okay, so you get the idea. I'll come back when I finish this. Okay, let's work on the wreath. The wreath one. I'm just going to backstitch the circle. Which way do I want to go? Quite a thick needle I've grabbed here. Never mind. Little shout out to Pauline, a new subscriber. She gave me a fabulous tip on my previous video that if you have an embroidery piece that you would like to put into a hoop, but the fabric is too small, put tulle in the hoop and just stitch your piece of fabric to that. That's a great tip. Next time I see some offcuts of tulle in the remnant bins, I'm going to grab some of those. That's a brilliant idea. Thanks so much, Pauline. I just had a thought that another way to approach these quilt as you go hexagons could be that instead of doing a stitchery or something on the fabric and then piecing your hexagon together, you could actually leave it plain and then with a simple design just quilt through all the layers. A bit like, so this is my lap quilt that I did 25 years ago, 24 years ago. A bit like this concept. So they're actually just doing like a sashiko style quilt that goes all the way through. That could be really interesting too. You could actually pick the same pattern and just variegate the colours that you use on each one. I think even just something like a really simple swirl. Would look effective for hearts. Hearts would be sweet, wouldn't they? Little quilted hearts. So many ideas, too many ideas. Not enough time to do it all. I've made quite the mess on my table today. I usually like to go a little more slowly and work out the pieces I want, then take the time to pack all the excess away so that you're not surrounded by mess, and that you can just keep stitching to your heart's content knowing that you've got the space tidy. Alright, I'm just going to grab it between the petals and maybe just one more stitch. Alright, you'll stitch down. How do you tie knots? This is just the way I've learned to do it, I guess, off my mum. The way I've always done it. I see some people do it around the needle and then slide it down. That looks really cool. I've got no idea what they're doing there. Alright, let's see where we place the other ones. Maybe at these corners. Oh yes, that makes it nice and easy, doesn't it? We've got these lovely corners to guide us. That's an advantage of doing a hexie. Leaves. Lazy daisy stitch. So you come up, go back down in the same hole, but bring it like a stitch away there. Hanging onto the thread. That forms a bit of a leaf. Now take stitch right close to the edge. And away we go. Come up right underneath here. This one I'm going to bring to the inside. So can you go down where you came in, stitch, stitch down. Okay, I'm going to keep going all the way around. See you when I get back. Okay, so the leaves are all stitched down. Now I'm just trying to decide whether just to leave it, because it really is quite pretty as it is. Being a tiny piece, maybe that's okay. Or do I go crazy with it? So I'm just going to do a little test stitch of this paler green. Just as a little, you know, curl, frond, something sticking out. I honestly think you can't even notice it. You can notice it on camera better than on the actual piece in real life. Oh, look, it's quite pretty. Even though it's not that noticeable, I'm going to carry on. Because the beauty of the quilt as you go hexagon is that there's no machine to ever have to get it under or anything like that, so you can actually put these bulkier items on it. It's completely fine. Oh yeah, that's pretty. That just gives it a little lift, a little bling. Stitching it down about 3 or 4 times. That feels pretty firm. I'll be back. Okay, so this one, we need to come up at the center. It's not the center. That's not the center. Maybe I shouldn't eyeball it. Maybe I should get the template. Oh, that looks pretty good. And helps if you tie a knot first. It stays much better that way. Let's try that again. Okay, so I went from the center to the top, and then back through the center to the bottom, and then the center to the side, and the center to the side, and then center. You can either do in half or in thirds. I'm going to go, what did I do on my other piece? Because I'm happy with that. I went halves. Now I'm keeping it sort of fairly flat, not pulling it tight. You can pull it tight, it gives it a different look. So it won't be like a circle, be more like a bit of a flower. See what happens there if you pull it tight, sort of gives it more of a petal shape. Then for a bit of depth, I'm going half. I'm not going right in the center, I'm going a bit to the edge. The reason being, we're going to do a lighter colour down the centre soon. A bit lower. Good. Two more. Okay. Tie that off. Then this lighter thread I'm going to do pistol stitch. So come up in the center, we go wrap the thread around. You need 1, 2, 3 times, I think I did in that previous one, and then hold the thread as you come down. And it forms a little knot at the end of your stitch. Two, three. I'm going in the center of the other spokes of the wheel that I made before. Come back with a beading needle and some strong thread and add some beads on the end of those spokes there. And just anchor the thread here because it came straight through even though it was knotted. So I'm just going to carry on stitching these at the end of every darker blue, and I'll be back.
You don't actually have to put, I'm thinking I might like one of these. You don't actually have to put a window, like you can just